So the Pandavas put on their disguises with heavy hearts. Yudhishthira in a sanyasin's robes, Arjuna as a graceful eunuch, and all the others in their new roles. But no costume could quite hide what they were. Their natural charm, grace, and nobility showed through the plain cloth, the way a lamp shows through a thin screen. When they came before King Virata seeking service, he was struck. These seemed men born to command, not to serve, and he hesitated to take them on. But they pressed him earnestly, and at last he appointed each to the place he sought. The exiled royalty of Hastinapura entered the court of Matsya as servants, and the dangerous year began. Yudhishthira became the king's companion, passing his days at dice by Virata's side. His true wisdom folded away inside a courtier's pleasant talk. Bhima ruled the royal kitchens as chief cook and entertained the court by wrestling its champions and mastering its wild beasts, hiding a world-shaking strength inside an apron. Arjuna as Brihannala taught dancing and music to Princess Uttara and the palace ladies. His warriors' hands turned to bangles and rhythm. Nakula tended the king's horses till their coats shone, and Sahadev watched over the cattle. 5 of the mightiest men alive, invisible in plain sight. And then there was the 6th of their company, Draupadi, a princess who by right should have had many maids of her own. Now passed her days serving Sudeshna, Virata's queen, as a sarandhri in the inner apartments. She braided hair, she ran errands, she did 100 uncongenial small tasks, and she bore it with a quiet dignity that could not quite hide how far she had fallen. And her beauty, sadly, did not go unnoticed, for in that palace lived Kichaka, brother of Queen Sudeshna and commander-in-chief of Virata's army. It was to Kichaka that the old king owed his power and prestige, and his influence was so vast that people said openly he was the real king of Matsya, and Virata king only in name. And Kichaka knew it, and it had made him dangerous. Vain of his strength and his power over the king, Kichaka was so smitten by Draupadi's beauty that he conceived an uncontrollable passion for her. And it never once crossed his mind that a mere maidservant might refuse him. He was too certain of his own attractions and his own power. He began to press his advances on her, and it filled her with disgust and fear. Draupadi was too ashamed to speak of it, so she gave out a warning instead. Her husbands, she said, were Gandharvas who would mysteriously kill any man who tried to dishonor her. Her radiant conduct made the story believed, and dread followed her. But Kichaka was not so easily frightened, and he pursued her all the harder. At last, his persecution grew unbearable, and Draupadi went to Queen Sudeshna and begged her protection. But Kichaka had the greater hold over his sister, and he shamelessly confided his unlawful passion to her and asked her help to get his way. He was, he claimed, dying of desire. From the moment I saw your maid, Kichaka told the queen, I get no sleep, no rest. You must save my life by making her receive me favorably. Sudeshna tried to dissuade him, but his passion would not be reasoned with. And at last, weakly, she yielded, and the two of them agreed on a plan to entrap Draupadi. The queen would betray her own maid. So one night, with a great feast of sweets and wine laid out in Kichaka's house, Sudeshna called Draupadi and handed her a golden jug. Go to my brother's house, she said, and fetch me wine. Draupadi's whole body went cold. She begged that any other of the many attendants be sent instead. But Sudeshna feigned anger and said sharply, Go, you must. I can send no one else. And poor Draupadi had to obey. Her fears were justified. When she reached Kichaka's house, the wretch, maddened with lust and wine, fell to pestering her with entreaties. She held him off with words. Why do you, of a noble royal house, seek a low-born maid, a married woman? You take the road to ruin. My Gandharva protectors will kill you in their anger. But warnings meant nothing to him now. When she would not yield, Kichaka seized her by the arm. But Draupadi set down the vessel, wrenched herself free, and fled. And the maddened Kichaka chased her right into the king's own court. And there, before the assembled nobles, drunk on wine and even more on his own power, he caught her and struck her down with abuse. A queen kicked in open court, and no one moved. Everyone feared the all-powerful commander, and not one man in that hall was bold enough to oppose him. It was Hastinapura all over again. A helpless woman insulted before silent, frightened men. Even King Virata sat by. Draupadi rose from the floor with a grief and a fury that this time she was not willing to swallow. Her distress made her forget, for once, the danger of exposing the Pandavas. That night she went to Bhima, woke him, and poured out her wrong. How Kichaka had chased and struck and shamed her before the whole court. And she appealed to him, in a voice broken with sobs, for the one thing the law of the palace could not give her: justice and revenge. I cannot bear this any longer, she wept. You must kill this wretch. For your sake, to keep your woes, I who once served only you and Mother Kunti now serve these people. Grinding sandal paste, dreading each are some fresh outrage. I do not mind the labor. Look at my hands. And she held them out to him, cracked, stained, worn raw with menial work. Bhima took those ruined hands and pressed them to his face and his eyes, and for a long moment could not speak at all, choked with sorrow and pity and love. He dried her tears with them, and when his voice finally came, it came thick and low, and it had murder in it. I care nothing for Yudhishthira's promise or Arjuna's caution, Bhima said. I care nothing for what may happen. I will do as you say. I will kill Kichaka and his whole gang here and now. And he rose. It was exactly the reckless fury that had almost undone them before. And it was Draupadi, the wronged one herself, who had to calm him. Do not be hasty, Draupadi warned him. Kill him openly and by night, and you kill us all, for the disguise is undone. So they talked it over and made a cold, careful plan. Kichaka would be lured, alone, to a quiet corner of the dancing hall at night, believing Draupadi waited there for him, and he would find, on that couch in the dark, not Draupadi, but Bhima. The plan needed Draupadi to do the hardest thing of all, to smile at the man she loathed. And in the morning, Kichaka gave her the perfect opening. He came to her, gloating. Sarandhri, I threw you down and kicked you before the king. And did anyone lift a finger to help you? Virata is king in name only. I am the true sovereign of Matsya. Do not be a fool. Come, enjoy life with me in royal honor, and I will be your devoted slave. And Draupadi, mastering her revulsion, pretended to yield. Kichaka, she said softly, I can resist you no longer. But no one, none of your brothers or companions, must ever know of us. Swear to keep it secret, and I am yours. Delighted, Kichaka swore it, and agreed to come alone that very night. Come to the dancing hall, she told him. The women lesson there by day and leave it empty at dark. I will be waiting on the couch. Come, and you may have your will. He walked away drunk on triumph, never dreaming what waited for him on that couch. That night, Kichaka bed and perfumed and decked himself like a bridegroom and went to the dancing hall. and found, to his joy, the doors open and the place dark and empty. He slipped inside. In the dim light, he made out a form lying on the couch. Sarandhri, surely, waiting for him at last. He groped his way across the dark floor and laid his eager hands upon the sleeper. And the sleeper was not soft and was not Draupadi. His hands closed on the iron frame of Bhima. Bhima sprang upon him like a lion on its prey and hurled him to the floor. But Kichaka was no coward, and now he was fighting for his life. And the two were terribly well matched. For in those days, Bhima and Balram and Kichaka were reckoned the three greatest wrestlers alive. Grimly they grappled in the dark. Kichaka certain he had one of the Gandharva husbands in his grip. The struggle raged like the legendary battle of Vali and Sugriv, the whole hall shaking with it. In the end, Bhima's was the greater strength. He overpowered Kichaka and killed him, crushing his body into a shapeless mass. A terrible end for the man who had struck a queen in open court. Then Bhima sent word of the deed to Draupadi and went quietly back to his kitchen, bathed, rubbed himself with sandal paste, and lay down and slept the deep, satisfied sleep of a man who has kept a promise. Justice, so long denied, had finally been done in the dark. Then Draupadi woke the guards of the court and showed them what remained of their all-powerful commander. Kichaka came to molest me, she told them, and as I always warned, my husbands the Gandharvas made short work of him. See what became of the man who fell prey to his lust. And she pointed to the shapeless mass that had been Kichaka, so unrecognizable that it scarcely seemed to have been a man at all. And so virtue was vindicated, and the man whom a whole kingdom feared lay dead by the hands of a cook. Draupadi's Gandharva husbands had proved terribly real. But a death like Kichaka's does not simply close a matter. It opens one. He had kinsmen, and an army, and a power that would not let his killing pass unanswered. The Pandavas' hardest year was not over. It had only found a new and more dangerous turn. And the enemy this time would come not creeping, but with an army, driving off the cattle of Matsya.